simultaneously broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook. So for my Facebook group, if you want to send me a comment, put your name in the comment because I won't be able to see your name because Facebook blocks that from StreamYard. And if you're on YouTube, you can also comment and I'll respond as I can and as I can catch up with the comments. And for those of you on YouTube who don't know me, my name is Barbara Heffernan, and my mission is to live a sane and joyful life while helping other people do the same. And I do that in a couple of ways. One is that I have a private one-to-one psychotherapy practice, all video, all online, and that's under the heading Mindful Psychotherapy. And then I've developed the Awaken Joy brand to bring the tools and techniques of mindfulness meditation, some Buddhist philosophy, and psychotherapy techniques, CBT, a whole bunch of stuff combined together to bring it to a larger audience. So I have group coaching programs, a free Facebook group called Awaken Joy, Empower Your Life, and a intensive 6-month program working with me called the Awaken Joy Journey. And I'll put the links to all of these things below when we finish with the live today. And that's an opportunity to work with me intensely in small groups and really do a deep dive into emotions and what makes you happy in life and what brings you joy and how do you take the steps to improve and change. And then I also just want to say, and then I'll move on to the topic, that I have a free online workshop. It's hosted out of the Facebook group. And again, I will put the links below. And that workshop is called Roadmap to Joy. And I will be offering it for the 3rd time on May 26th through May 30th. So for some of you who've already taken it, you're welcome to join us again. For those of you who haven't taken it, I'd love to have you take it. And it is actually going to be the last time I'm offering this workshop for free. And I just want to read 2 quick testimonials to you from people who took it the last time around. And I greatly appreciate these testimonials, by the way. So Maureen wrote, "The gifts I received in the workshop are still unfolding. Overall, the workshop allowed me to take a deeper dive with an open heart to what lies below my extravagant and distorted stories and habitual patterns. I know I will be continuing to review each class and all the notes I took, while allowing my wiser mind to take brave steps moving forward in alignment with my desires and visions." And that touched me so deeply because it's exactly the intent of the workshop. And then one other testimonial just quickly. Barbara is a wealth of knowledge, compassion, and intelligence. She has studied in depth all that she teaches. And what she teaches is expansive, including meditation, self-compassion, self-healing, goal setting, and a deep understanding of emotions, to name a few. She approaches each person with pure acceptance, patience, and understanding. I have known Barbara for a long time, and she lives what she teaches. You are in very good hands when working with this transformative healer. So thank you, Peggy. Beautiful testimonial, really touches my heart. So again, just before I launch into the discussion about emotional regulation today, just want to invite everybody, take a look at the workshop, Roadmap to Joy, and join us if you can. So, okay, coming back to the topics. And let's just take a look. The video, sounds like the video is freezing a little bit. Looks to me to be working okay right now. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Teresa. Hello, all the other Facebook users. I can't see your name unless you put it in your comment if you're on Facebook. And Polly, hi. Cold and rainy in Chicago. I'm glad you're here. It's beautiful and sunny here, not particularly warm, but we have been having a lot of cold and rainy days, and that does impact our emotional regulation. That's for sure. We're very sensitive to the weather. So let's see. Okay. There's not much I can do about the video freezing. I think that so many people right now are using the internet that we just kind of have to go with it. So it looks like it's still working on my end. You could send me a thumbs up. If it is, send me a heart, and I'm going to try to get moving here. So, emotional regulation. It is such an important topic. And I always take a look at other things that are on the internet about the topics that I'm going to talk about, just to see what people are saying. And so much of emotional regulation is talking about controlling emotions. And I dislike that term control, because controlling emotions makes it sound like we can sort of stick them in a box and take care of them and make them behave themselves. And that's actually not true in any way. So to me, emotional regulation is a much more instinctual process. Most of what's being written about it is about how you can consciously direct it, which is good. We like that. But it's also completely instinctual. Oh, good. Rob's letting me know it's working on YouTube. Great. Glad to know that. Hopefully it works okay on Facebook as well. Janet, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do about it freezing. So if it's really irritating, you can always listen to the replay, because I think that the recording is still happening. So it's just kind of the times that we're living in, actually. It connects to COVID and the social isolation and everybody being on their internet. So emotional regulation, it's a human instinct to regulate emotions. And if you think about the ideal mother or father, the ideal parent holding a baby, what does that parent try to do? And we talked about this a little bit last week when I brought in my dog George with the thunderstorms. We have a natural way of regulating our emotions. And the parent will naturally kind of calm their voice and sort of slow down when they want a baby to calm down, right? Or if it's time for the baby to wake up and get going, the parent will naturally do this. So we have all these ways of completely instinctually regulating our emotions. And if we have a good enough parent, we learn emotional regulation young. Unfortunately, many of us grew up in households where emotional regulation is not well regulated. You know, generations of trauma, difficulties, anxieties, diseases, different things happen and impact people and family systems, which make it difficult for parents to emotionally regulate themselves, which then makes it difficult for them to teach an infant. So I'm just kind of putting this out there to give you a little bit of broader context on emotional regulation than a lot of the stuff that you will read if you Google it. So we have these natural, instinctual ways to regulate our emotions. So I'm going to ask you, someone said they're going to regulate their emotions and be patient. Thank you. I appreciate that. So give me some examples. If you are feeling tired, it's getting towards the end of the day, you got to get up and do some dishes, what might you do? What might be a completely instinctual thing that you would maybe do in order to do that? So I'm going to put out a couple of examples here, and then you guys can respond, because there's a little bit of a delay before I get the response. Or let's say it's getting to be bedtime and you're watching a movie where it's just really, either too exciting or nerve-wracking. And you realize, I'm not going to be able to get to sleep here. What might you do? So those would be sort of two different examples. So let me know. You need to do the dishes and you're feeling tired. What's your answer? So for me, I put on music. I put on up-regulating music. So that's a term that therapists and other people will use, up-regulation and down-regulation. So if you're feeling tired and you have to get up and do a task, you up-regulate. So music is a great way to upregulate. So I'd love to know what other ideas you guys might have. Or end of the day, you realize you're watching a movie that's just, like I was watching The Hobbit. There's so much fighting in that movie, and it just like gets me like this. I had to turn the movie off, take about 30, 45 minutes to just sort of read a really, really calming book to downregulate. Okay, so does this make sense to you guys? Send me a thumbs up or send me a little heart or a note. So we naturally do things to upregulate and downregulate our moods. Let me know if this is all making sense. So other things that we do to naturally regulate our emotions are exercise, being with other people, as I said, music, some people dance, and a lot of this stuff is interrupted right now with COVID-19. And on top of that, we all have extra anxieties, right? There's anxieties about ourselves getting sick, our loved ones, other people, the economy. I mean, there's just so much. If we choose to get stuck in anxiety, we can get stuck in anxiety. And yeah, okay, so Rob, take a lot of deep breaths, let them out low and steady. So that's a down regulation technique, right? Making your breathing more diaphragmatic, longer exhale is a down regulating technique. And good, people are saying that this makes sense. Hi, Julia. Hi, Angela. Janet. Nice to see you guys. So I know people are still having trouble with the freezing, but yes, if it's working better on YouTube, switch on over to YouTube. That might make it a little bit easier. So COVID-19 has interrupted a lot of this. And I want to bring in another concept here to talk about, which is whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or both. Because we also emotionally regulate by how much time we spend with other people. So if we're extroverts, emotional regulation, we like to be with other people, right? Extroverts get energized through being in groups or with other people or in conversations. And that's an up regulation. So it boosts the mood as well as the energy. And so for extroverts right now, for most part, you don't have that. At least you don't have it in person, right? And introverts recharge and re-energize by spending time alone. So if you're introverted, being out and about and with a lot of people can be draining and can be very tiring in terms of mood and energy level. And so introverts like to retreat, read a book, that kind of thing. And for some people right now with your living situations, you may not have that introverted time. So this is one of the key areas that I'm seeing people having trouble regulating their emotions through COVID-19 situation, is that many of us have gotten into a rhythm where we spend some time out in the world, right? A little energizing, and then maybe some retreat time to reset. And I know myself, I am in the middle. I have an extroverted side and an introverted side, and I need a little bit of both. So I'm always really aware of that balance. And introversion is a very important part for me. So I'm lucky because at the moment I'm living just with my husband. He understands my introverted side. He's okay if at the end of the day I'm like, brain's dead, I can't talk, I gotta go read a book. He's all right with that. He's more of an extrovert, so he's missing more interaction. But does this make sense? Is this making sense to you guys? In terms of whether you're an introvert or an extrovert and how COVID-19 is impacting that for you? Let me know. So the other ways that we emotionally regulate, one of the main ways that we emotionally regulate is through exercise. Great, this is making sense to you guys. Yeah. So we emotionally regulate through exercise, and many of us do that at gyms, and that hasn't been available. So one of the problems with the way that this whole situation is being managed right now in our society is it's kind of like a 2 week at a time thing. It's like okay, we're going to social isolate for a couple of weeks, then a couple of weeks, then a couple of weeks. So people don't necessarily get motivated to replace the normal emotionally regulating habits that they have. Because if you think, oh, everything's going to be fine in 3 weeks, well, then I don't have to figure out a different way to exercise. But right now, my recommendation is no matter how long this lasts, the best thing to do right now is to figure out how to replace some of these things that you're missing that probably help you emotionally regulate. So yeah, Janet is sharing she's an introvert and really okay staying in. And Julia, happy to be by herself. Yeah, so for introverts, this may not be so bad if you have a calm living situation. On the other hand, I know people who are introverts, but they have kids and a spouse, and they're used to working at home and getting a lot of time alone. And now all of a sudden, their kids are at home, their spouse is at home, they're sharing space. There's maybe not a lot of space, but there's so much more to do in terms of, helping your kids with the education and just all of these demands on their interaction time that they're not used to. So COVID-19 is not necessarily easy for introverts because not everybody's situation is one where they are retreating from the world. Polly is sharing she's both an introvert and extrovert, and she's enjoying and cherishing this sequestering time. So that's awesome if you can do that, if you can really enjoy this time. And my recommendation for people who are struggling, so say the introvert who right now has the entire family at home 24/7, is talk to your family members. Just let them know that your introverted side needs a little bit of attention, and maybe work out a system where you can go read your book alone in a room for a little while. Talk about it as something that is as important as your physical health. So the same way you get to eat your meals, you get to take a little introverted time. That your mental health and your mood is critically important for your family. So hopefully that makes some sense. And then for those people who are extroverted, obviously a lot of what is needed is going to be done through the computer. And yet I've been hearing such incredible innovation. So somebody I know went to a waltz dance party on Saturday night. So somebody arranged a large YouTube waltzing dance party and sent it out to all their friends who danced. And what an awesome thing. What an awesome way to connect and be creative and use these technology tools to bring in those activities that are joyful, that are helping you regulate. So hopefully this is still all making some sense. And again, when you look at what's written on the internet and a lot of the articles on emotional regulation, they're going to be talking about it in terms of how you change your thoughts to change or control your emotions. And I do think that's important. How we view things or the meaning we put to things really, really impacts our mood. So you definitely can use CBT type tools to regulate your emotions. Some examples of that might be if you live by yourself right now, and even if you're an introvert and you like that time, it might seem like it's a little bit too much. And I know people who are living alone right now and feeling quite lonely, and then the cognitions begin of, I'm a loser, I'm alone because there's something wrong with me, da 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 da, none of which is true. You're alone right now because you happen to live alone and we're in social isolation. Like, that's the reason. So becoming aware of your negative self-talk, what that's telling you and how that is driving your mood down, is a key and is very important. And yes, somebody's sharing, yes, we need to be intentional in meeting our needs right now. Absolutely, absolutely. And another piece that's brought up a lot when you read articles about emotional regulation is the concept of mindfulness. And there's a therapy technique called dialectical behavior therapy, and DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, focuses almost entirely on emotional regulation. That's really the core. And that type of therapy also uses a very strong mindfulness background. So really bringing your attention back into the present, into this moment. If part of the emotional regulation that's hard for you right now are just thoughts and worries about COVID and the situation, bringing it into, I'm safe enough here, I'm safe enough now, right here, right now, everything is okay. And bringing that kind of concept in to down regulate. So curious what questions you guys have at this point, and what's rung true for you in terms of what I'm talking about. So I think the main point I wanted to make today is that some emotional regulation that we do is completely instinctual and natural, and you probably have not even thought of it necessarily as emotional regulation, right? Like exercise, it's like, I feel better when I exercise. Yep, that's emotional regulation. Or I feel better when I put on uplifting music. Yep, that's emotional regulation. And then to introduce this concept of upregulation and downregulation, because we need both. And some of us need more of one than the other, right? Some of us tend to be a little bit lower in energy and we need to work on upregulation more often. And then if we tend to be too hyper, we need more down regulating tools. And for most of us, we use these tools throughout the day in a fairly natural way. And we can put an extra conscious layer on it to begin to figure out, how do I use cognitive behavioral tools to regulate my emotions, to regulate how upset I get about something. And along with emotional regulation is also this concept of, some people feel like their emotions are overwhelming and out of control, and other people might feel like their emotions are restricted, right? And again, a lot of this has to do with how you grew up, what was modeled for you, what you were taught. But one of the wonderful things is that this brain and mind, which causes us so much torture, is also neuroplasticity. What do I want to say? It's also flexible, right? The concept of neuroplasticity, we can change our brains, we can change the patterns of how we think throughout our entire lives. It's really somewhat miraculous. Doing that requires practicing tools over and over. So being aware of what it is that you need, advocating for yourself within your family, even just that as a tool will end up being reinforcing. And then changing some of the negative core talk, that becomes reinforcing. So, oh, I know what I want to share with you guys. So next week, Tuesday, May 12th, is my birthday, and I turn 60. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to keep my schedule as normal, since what else is there to do? I'll probably try to get outside and do a little kayaking in the afternoon, but I will be going live next Tuesday in the Facebook group, and I'll probably post something different on YouTube so we can have a little more of a discussion in Facebook. So anybody watching on YouTube who's not in the Facebook group, feel free to join. And then also, please do take a look at the Roadmap to Joy workshop. So we've had about 200 people go through it, and yet there's about 1,200 people in the Facebook group. So I want to get as many people as possible to go through that program. It's the last time I'm offering it for free. It starts on May 26th, and I really, really want to encourage you to use it, to utilize it, to gain enormous benefit from it. Someone sharing, I'm surprised how real the connections feel over this technology. It's a real blessing to have other like-minded people to commune with. Thank you all. Yeah, no, I agree. It really is a blessing. The technology is a blessing. Can also be a curse, right? That's another thing. We need to regulate how much exposure we have, what we're exposing ourselves to, making sure we're in communities which feel uplifting and connecting, and not ones that make us feel like we're pushed out or judged. And Polly's sharing, yeah, changing thought patterns can definitely change emotions. Mindful practice, yes, and happy birthday. Thank you. And I will see you guys all next week.